Welcome to the first episode of the Couch Posse Podcast, a podcast about the Redskins by Redskins fans. Yes, there is a new team name. No, I don't care. Couch Posse, in case you're wondering, for those who are not old enough to remember, Posse was the name of the group of receivers, Ricky Sanders, Art Monk, Gary Clark from back in the day. They all had 100,000-yard receiving seasons in the same season. They were known as the Posse. So we're running with that. If you don't like it, leave us a note. Tell us what you think, and maybe we'll change it for you. I'd like to introduce my co-hosts, Mike and Joe. Guys, feel free to introduce yourselves.
I was just going to say, I'm Mike, and if you're going to say you don't like our name, make a suggestion of a new one. Give us something to work with.
I guess by default, that means I'm Joe. And I didn't know the Posse until you guys told me about it the other day. So sorry, y'all are old.
That's okay. You didn't know the Fun Bunch either. Or the
I've
Wild
heard
Bunch.
that before, though. I've heard the Fun Bunch.
Okay.
I just didn't get the reference.
All right. So we're going to roll with Couch Posse because we all watch the game from our couches, and that's where we play Monday morning quarterback from. Although I don't know if any of us are actually sitting on couches now, but that's irrelevant. This is a podcast by fans who are not the people who are knee-deep in the hoopla of like the Combine was this weekend. You guys watch the Combine?
No.
Okay. See, we're not going to talk about the Combine. We're not going to talk about someone's hand size or their vertical or their three-cone race or whatever, because we don't care. And between the three of us, we don't watch enough college football, so we're not going to go really deep into the draft and stuff like that. We're just going to talk about the team. We're going to talk about the players. We're going to talk about the coaches. We're going to talk about what we think about it. And come when the season starts, and just for reference, it is March 5th. We'll talk about the games and what we think went right and what we thought went wrong and things like that, and whatever else happens to come out of our mouths.
And just remember, we're typical Washington fans. We're going to talk and act like we're experts, but we actually don't know much.
Sounds about right.
That sums it up pretty good. So that's our podcast. That's how we're going to do it. Again, this is the first episode. We're trying it. It's brand new. It's actually the first podcast for the three of us in any way, shape, or form. None of us have ever done a podcast before. So the production value is low, but the entertainment value will be high. I promise you. You may laugh, you may cry, you may be angry.
Not make promises in the first episode.
I'm telling you, we deliver. We will deliver.
Okay.
I have confidence in us. We're fortunate to be starting the podcast now in the wake of the Deebo Samuel trade, which, of course, isn't official until the league season starts, which is, I don't know, like next week or something. I don't even know when the league season starts.
The 12th.
Like I said, it starts the 12th. Thanks, Joe. And so Washington traded a 5th-round pick for Deebo Samuel with the 49ers. They're going to pay his whole salary, which I think is about $17.5 million for the season. And it's, as of right now, until they work out a new contract, the way I view it is it's a 1-year rental. They traded a 5th-round pick for a 1-year rental. And I guess on the surface, that's pretty good, because if you're getting the caliber player that Samuel is for a 5th-round pick, I guess that's pretty good.
Hopefully, right? Of course, you're seeing all these things on the internet that he's fat and overweight. And, if you read certain things coming out of San Francisco, they've got nothing but terrible things to say about him because they're glad to be rid of him. But I think that's just...
No, I read an article about that, and basically the way they did this, like, they should have cut him, is what the gist of it was. They were like, this was a pointed thing to trade him to a, conference rival. Like, They were like, like they were sending a message.
Well, apparently if they had waited till after the June 1st, the whole June 1st thing, that they could have saved or split his cap hit and the dead money and that type of stuff. And I guess they wanted to send some sort of message. And the fact that Washington picked up his entire salary for the season, because I read some reports when they were talking about the potential of a trade, that it's one of those things where maybe San Francisco could get a higher draft pick if they paid part of the salary. But Washington's taking on the whole salary, so it's a 5th round pick. Now, but yeah, he himself, I could have swore, said he came out and he was above his normal playing weight.
Okay.
And after saying we weren't going to go into details, of course, I'm just trying to regurgitate stuff that I read, was that he likes to play around 215, 217, that type of thing. And at some point he was up to 225 last season. Some people said it was because he had pneumonia or something like that. But I'd be concerned anytime a professional athlete is playing out of shape or overweight. I mean, these guys, their career, their livelihood is based on their body. So if they're not willing to take care of their body, then what does that say about them?
Yeah, but I'll say this. How long has he wanted out of San Francisco? I mean, did he just
a couple
not
of years now?
Yeah, I mean, he's wanted to get out of there for a while. So is there, I don't know. Did he just not give a shit last year and he wasn't going to do anything for that team? And he was just going to go do his thing. I mean, I saw something today that came out, and of course, because Washington, we react extreme. Washington fans, we react with the extreme. But apparently, there's a video of him like on his workout grind, getting ready for next year already, and so everyone's like, "Yeah, there it is." So I don't know. I get the concern, but I'll be curious to see where he is come August.
Yeah, I think that. Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, it also feels like anytime, you lose a player or manager or whoever, coach, your team is always going to paint them in a bad light to be like, hey, look, we got rid of this dead weight. We're moving forward. Good for us. And now he's your problem. And then, of course, Washington right now, I'm seeing there's so many people and so many, blogs and stuff saying that we won on this trade. They're giving us a grading of an A or an A minus or whatever the heck it is. And it's like, oh, you guys, we're doing so great. We're picking up a great player. And, we'll know at the end of next year if we picked up a good player.
Right. And that's been my philosophy with a lot of these trades and stuff is you don't know what it's worth or what the value of it is off on the surface. On the surface, if you're trading a 5th round pick for a player that has produced and has put up good numbers, even though his numbers have diminished over the last couple of years, what would you normally get out of a 5th round pick? You're getting a player that should make your roster as a backup, and if you're lucky, will be a starter down the road. That's a 5th round pick in my eyes.
Well, that's why I don't feel like we gave up a lot for this. And look, he doesn't have to come in and be a wide receiver 1. We've got Terry for that. He just needs to be enough of a threat on the field where the defense has to at least be concerned for him so that they're not, only focused on McLaurin.
Right. And I was listening to John Couch podcast and he was talking about this, and he was talking about a play in particular, and it's one play, but Samuel for San Francisco went in motion across the backfield or whatever, and the whole offensive line pulled to that direction. They faked the pitch to him, and the entire defense followed him, and Purdy turned to the other side of the field, and there was George Kittle wide open. Like you don't leave George Kittle wide open. That's stupid football. So he draws enough attention. So you're right, Mike. He can be that factor, and as the experts like to tell me, with a lot of the other recent moves that Washington has made in the last, we'll say 3-4 years, is that if it doesn't work out, then he's gone after one season and there's no cap hit. And all it cost you was a 5th round draft pick. And you're willing to gamble with that 5th round draft pick because, again, what would you be drafting with that otherwise?
Yeah.
So I think it's a good trade, but on the surface, but yeah, he's got to perform somewhat, even if he performed as good as call it a number 3 receiver. I think he's brought in now to be the number 2 receiver, because Washington doesn't have a true number 2 receiver.
Right.
Nope. And we're probably going to lose, what's his name? Deebo Brown.
Yeah. He's probably going to go because someone's going to offer him a lot of money.
Yeah. He
more
did
than
pretty
he's
good
worth.
for us the last, what's that?
So he's going to be offered more than he's worth because of the end of the season.
Yes. And he was doing awesome at the end of the season, but the beginning of the season.
So I think Washington needs to look, and that's a big question for Washington with the wide receivers is, okay, so if you have Terry and you have Deebo, then, and if we're all in agreement that Deebo Brown's going to be gone, then, you look at the rest of the receivers that are on the roster. Well, you have McCaffrey. He's a draft pick from last year, and that's the New Realms draft pick. So, he's not going anywhere. So is he going to step up and be your number 3 receiver? Or are you going to look to bring back people like a Noah Brown, who in his limited time did okay, pretty good for Washington? He was their de facto number 2 when he was in the game. Are you going to bring back Crowder again for one more season? Or are you going to go and pursue someone in free agency, or is there another trade out there? I don't think they'd trade for another receiver. That's my opinion, since Peters wants to build through the draft, but they could sign someone in free agency, I suppose, like Kirk from Jacksonville, who played in Arizona with Cliff. Although I don't know anything about him, I just read the name today. That's all I know.
Like I said, Washington fan, that makes you an expert. You read the name.
I read the name, so that's what I know. What more do I need to know? I could look him up and see what I come up with, and I don't even know his first name, which is okay because he's not on Washington. So what do I care? But I think that's the. I don't think they're going to trade for another receiver, but they could definitely sign someone.
We should go after Devontae Adams, right?
Oh, breaking news. Just going to ESPN. Chargers released 5-time Pro Bowler defensive end Joey Bosa.
Really?
Yeah. How about them apples? Breaking news on our podcast, on our first podcast. Breaking news. Even though we're Washington Redskins based, we'll talk about some other teams a little bit. I should have said that. We're not going to focus on other teams. We'll talk about Redskins opponents, and it just so happens, who's the Redskins opponent this year?
Hey.
The Chargers. Thanks.
Oh yeah, Chargers. I would have guessed that.
So there you go. So Washington could sign Joey Bosa now because we need defensive end help. And what better than to bring in another Ohio State defensive end?
We definitely need a lot of help there. Who was the last Ohio State defensive end we had?
You know who he was.
Who is also available. He's a free agent too, I think. He
is. And I should say that if I talk about bringing in players for Washington, I'm an Ohio State fan. I'm a Virginia Tech fan. So those are the players, college players I know the best. So I always want them to bring in those players. For the record. Christian Kirk
doesn't always work out though.
Christian Kirk is the wide receiver from Jacksonville. He's the one that was drafted originally by Arizona, and when Cliff was there. And so, as we know, the same way that the team targets San Francisco players because of Adam Peters, they could target players that Cliff played with as well, or Dan Quinn, the same way they went after players that Dan Quinn knew from the Cowboys and such.
Yeah. Well, we also need to make sure we're focusing on what we actually need, right?
Well, the team still needs a lot of things. That's the funny thing to me is when I read stuff, like, okay, so we need wide receiver help, right? So they got Deebo Samuel, all right, but they still need more help because they only have 3 receivers under contract for next season, and that's Terry, Deebo, and McCaffrey. So they still need more wide receivers. So then they also need defensive line help because I believe both of our defensive ends are free agents, and Jonathan Allen's going to be cut if he's not traded. And to your point earlier, Joe, is Washington going to trash Jonathan Allen when they trade him or cut him because then he's gone, which I don't think that will happen. But
I hope with our new regime, with the new ownership and everything, I really hope we start taking the high road and not smearing every name that comes and leaves our team. I'm so sick of it.
The franchise never did that.
Yeah, okay. Not once.
Who did they? Who am I, a Cincinnati fan? Who did the franchise trash that didn't deserve it?
That didn't oh, right, of course.
I don't think you understand the taking the high road thing. But
also, Darius Geis, when they cut him, he deserved every bad word that was said about him. You guys, do you remember Darius Geis?
I mean, I remember him, but I don't remember what they said about him.
Darius Geis was a second-round pick, and I was told by all the experts that he was a steal in the draft and he was going to be a beast. Well, apparently he was a beast only when dealing with his girlfriend, though, because he beat her.
Yes.
Okay.
So he deserves to be trashed. Okay, so Christian Kirk. So bouncing all around. Whatever.
Hold on, though. 1 second, though, because I did want to point this out.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys saw it. It came out maybe yesterday. But Deebo, going back to trashing, did you hear what he said about San Francisco? No bad blood. Like, he literally took the high road and was like, love for those guys, And this is a guy who'd been trying to get out of there for how many years? So I did respect that about him.
Yeah, and that's great. Then, okay, I'm not saying anybody should have trashed anybody. I'm not an angry person by nature.
I was fully expecting you to come in here and start bad mouthing Deebo and saying we don't want him, we don't need him. What the hell? This is a waste of a pick.
Well, I don't think it's a waste of a pick. It's because it's a 5th-round pick. And when I first heard the trade, I questioned it. Yes, because I'm going to question everything this franchise does.
I have to remain an optimist now because we got to turn over a new leaf.
But it's not about being it's not being an optimist or a pessimist. It's just questioning it, because I go back to Adam Peters has 1 year of being a general manager, of running the show himself under his belt, just 1 year. And he turned over a franchise. I mean, how many new players were on the team last year? Over 30. And it needed that. I'm not questioning that.
Yep.
But he and Harris and Quinn are all still in the honeymoon phase. They've got 3 years where, to most fans, they will not be able to do anything wrong. Because simply because it's not Snyder, it's not Rivera. So they have that going for them. So, and I'm not saying it's not deserved. I'm not saying they've made mistakes or anything like that. But I'm going to question things because, as everyone likes to point out, for the last 25 years, it was Dan Snyder making bad moves. Okay. But nobody questioned those moves because everyone was so happy about those moves. You know how happy people were when they traded for Carson Wentz? People were happy about trading for Carson Wentz.
How could anyone be happy for that trade?
J.P. Finley said that Carson Wentz was worth 3 extra wins in a season. Yet, in the same breath, said that the best thing about the trade was they could cut him after 1 year and there'd be no cap penalty. So, I question it at first, but I've said all along here, I don't hate the trade. I'm not jumping for joy about the trade. because I don't know what we're getting. It's the same thing as the draft. You don't know what you're getting. You anticipate.
Right.
They drafted Jaden Daniels, and everybody lost their minds. They were super excited. I was reserved. Why? One, because I didn't watch him play in college. All I knew is that he won the Heisman. Well, great. How many Heisman quarterbacks have just sucked in the NFL? More than have succeeded. And so I wait, and he had a great season. Wonderful. I'm happy, but I didn't assume he was going to have a great season or anything like that. Why would I? What had he done in the NFL? So it's the same thing now. Deebo, his production has gone down. Not necessarily in 4 consecutive seasons. Like if I look at his numbers, if I go back to 2021 was his big year. And that's when he got his contract extension. He had 77 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He gets a big contract, and he follows that up with, now granted, he played in 3 fewer games in 2022, 56 receptions, 630 yards, 2 touchdowns. He rebounds the next season. He played 15 games, 60 receptions, 892 yards, and 7 touchdowns, which was a career high for him. And then last year, with his overweightness or sickness or little injuries here and there because he wasn't playing complete games, he had 51 receptions for 670 yards and 3 touchdowns. So his numbers are going down. And I didn't even look at his rushing yards, but his rushing yards went from 2021, he went from 365, 232, 225, 136. And the average yards was dropping as well. So his numbers are going down.
I know, but every other year he's like this. So next year he should be good. 1 year rental for a 5th. It should be a rebound year for him. It'll be perfect. It'll work out great.
Oh, what's the worry? And he's also 29. And I was told that we needed to go younger at wide receiver because Terry's approaching 30 now. Well, so we just traded for a guy that's the same age as Terry and was drafted in the same draft as Terry. So yes, I have concerns, but I don't hate the trade. So it's not. Am I being an optimist? Far from it. But I don't think I'm being a pessimist.
Don't worry. No one expects you to be an optimist. So
no, that's my job.
You've been Rob.
Hey, opinions vary. But yeah, so I don't know. We were talking about all their different needs or whatever, but they have so many needs that where are they going to stop? So this addresses one need. It costs the team 1 draft pick. It costs them obviously a 5th round draft pick would not have a salary cap hit of $17 million. But if he produces and he comes back with 60 or 70 receptions and 700 or 800 yards, or maybe even 1,000 yards total between rushing and receiving, which has he done that? I don't know if he's done that. Let's see. I'm sure he has. If he can give, if he wants to do 1,000 yards, 800. So his big season, he had almost 1,800 total yards, then 800 yards, 1,000 yards, 700 yards. So yes, Mike, following your philosophy, if he can give me 1,000 total yards, and I'll even throw in if he returns some punts or something. I don't know if he does that, but maybe he could.
But you're looking straight up stats on what he delivers. I think there's another aspect that if he can, even him being on the field can help Terry's stats jump up and get more yards, more touchdowns. That helps too.
Right. But that's the complete unknown.
Right.
And to me, that goes back to things like when Eric, and it's happened the last 2 seasons in Washington, when Bieniemy was brought in to be the offensive coordinator. One of the things that was talked about was, would his coaching style or his game planning help the offensive line be more productive in eliminating sacks? Obviously, it wasn't.
What a shit show that was.
And then I heard the same thing this year with Cliff coming in, and I don't know who are the next person down or the offensive line coach is. I couldn't even tell you that, but it was more of the same. Will Cliff's offensive system help cure what ailed the offensive line last year? When Howell got sacked, whatever it was, 50 times or however many times it was. So you hope that it does, but we won't know until the season starts, and that's why I won't allow myself to be overly optimistic. I can feel better about things. Do I feel better that Deebo Samuel is a wide receiver on the team as opposed to De'Ami Brown? Yes. Is he costing a heck of a lot more than De'Ami Brown? He sure is, contract-wise, cap-wise, but I think it could be worth it. So I have optimism in that aspect.
Okay, you like this over De'Ami because you think he will perform better than De'Ami?
I think he will help the team more big picture than De'Ami did.
Okay.
But I'm looking at De'Ami not just from last year. I'm looking at his entire career with Washington. He had a slow start. He was someone, when they drafted him, I was high on him. Not like super high, like I thought he was going to become an all-pro or anything like that, but I thought he would become a very serviceable wide receiver. And he did in his first couple of years. It wasn't until last year where we really started getting into it, which I don't think they're going to bring him back. I don't think they're going to re-sign him, but I certainly wouldn't have a problem if they did. I guess depending on the contract, of course.
I can't wait for next week because I want to see who we're bringing back, who we're signing, what we're doing, because we've got 29 free agents.
Yeah,
we got a bunch, and it was so funny when this last season ended. I couldn't wait for the offseason to start because it's like I can't wait to see what we do next. It's like, where are we going to grow? Where are we going? Because we definitely do need help. We have a lot of things that we got a bunch of holes to fill and depth to add. But it's like,
Yep.
It was so, I don't know. It's nice to have a football-minded guy as a GM instead of hiring some dumbass like Vinny Serrato or Bruce Allen to act as GMs, and they don't know what the hell they're doing, and they're not football guys. And
that's not true. They're both those guys that you named were football guys. And Bruce was successful in Tampa Bay. He may not have been the best guy, but I was excited when they brought him in originally. And maybe that was just a connection to his dad, but I was excited about that. Now, did it pan out? No, not at all. Not in the big picture. No. Big picture, it failed horribly with all the other BS that went along with it that we won't go into. Serrato was a football guy. Maybe he wasn't the best football guy, but he was a football guy. More recently, the problem is when they put Rivera and they made Rivera the GM, along with being coach, when he wasn't, he's not competent to be either one. As bad as a coach as he was even worse GM, and just the drafts can reflect that. With Adam Peters coming in, for him to be better than what was here is a low bar. I'm not saying he didn't go leaps and bounds above that, but it was a very low bar to be better than what was here. And that's why it's the same why I say about him and Quinn and Harris have the honeymoon phase. They've got 3 years. No one's going to be fired. I mean, obviously Harris isn't going to be fired, but Peters, Quinn, and Cliff, I'll throw him in. No one's going to be fired for 3 years, regardless of how the team would perform. If they went 4-13 next year and then 5-12 the following year, for some whatever reason, they would not be fired.
Both of those stats are completely believable because we won 5 games on the last play of the game. Had we not gotten that one play, we would have been, 7-8.
7-9. 7-10. 7-10.
Whatever. How many damn games we play now?
Joe's going back to when there were 14 regular season games and 6 preseason games.
Yeah, back when the Posse was around.
No, it was actually before that.
God damn it. Whatever.
So I think So yeah, I'm not the optimist, but I'm optimistic about some things, but I'm not 12. So I don't get super excited that they traded for a guy whose best season was 5 years ago or whatever. 4 or 5 years ago. And, had some issues last season for whatever reason. And, it's interesting to me whenever a player asks for a trade, I'm always a little curious as to what's behind that, especially like it'd be one thing if someone wanted to be traded from Carolina, but the 49ers are a good franchise. And so
last year though, right?
Well, they didn't have a great season last year, but they're not that too far from a Super Bowl. I mean, Deebo played in a Super Bowl with them.
Yeah.
So what, and Shanahan is the boy genius, other than the other boy genius, McVay. What is the reason for the trade request? It's the same thing like Jonathan Allen. Why does he want to be traded? I mean, I realize he thinks he's going to be cut, but wouldn't you rather be cut and then you can pick whatever team you want to go and be a free agent? Why would you want to be traded where maybe you won't have as much say in where you go?
Was he definitely going to be cut before he asked for the trade, though?
Who, Deebo?
No, Jonathan Allen.
Well, Jonathan Allen, from everything I've read, is and this includes 2 different articles today, and they may have been quoting the same source for all I know, is that he will be cut if they don't find a trading partner.
Well, I know that's what they're saying today, but I'm just wondering, was that the case before he went and asked for a trade? Was he going to be cut and knew it was coming?
There was the possibility, because he's entering the last year of his contract. There's no guaranteed money, which always in the NFL nowadays, and there goes my flag. Wrong side.
No.
That's probably our timer for the podcast of when it's supposed to end.
Right. There was talk that he would be cut because he's in the last year of his contract. There's no guaranteed money, so it doesn't cost him to cut anything. And to re-sign him, he would probably want more than what he's worth. And I'm a firm believer that during the season, when they were coming to the trade deadline this last season, had he not been hurt, he would have been traded then.
Okay.
Whether it was for players or draft picks or some combination, whatever, I believe with everything I got, he would have been traded at the deadline had he not been hurt. So, I think if they don't find a trade for him here in the next couple of days, maybe a week or so, I mean, it's the year starts in a week, so they've got some time. I think he'll be cut. And the team, if that happens, is they'll frame it as giving him the best chance to find the team that he wants to play for and that type of thing. The reason for the team to trade him instead of cutting him now is just so they get something out of it. They can get draft capital. Like if they could trade Allen, and he's probably worth, depending on what team they go to, they could trade him and say a 7th and get a 5th back. And so that would recoup the 5th that they sent to San Francisco. Because right now they don't have a 5th round draft pick. They don't have a 5th round pick in this year's draft, but I think they have 2 7th round picks, if not 3.
I don't think we have a 4th round pick either.
So
I thought I saw that.
So that would be a way to get draft picks back, is by trading him so they get something back for him. But cutting him and saving the whatever his cap was like 20 million, I think. Getting that space, they'll need that to sign whomever. Or I mean, they're not going to trade for Myles Garrett or anything like that. That's not happening. But I think that's why. So I think I'm not a betting person, but I would put money on it that he'll be cut if they don't find a trade partner.
Oh no, I definitely think he will be now. I mean, it's even what was coming out today. I just wasn't sure if that was the case before he asked for the trade. So no, but you're right, definitely will now.
But why did, but it goes back to, why did he ask for a trade? Is there something that he wasn't happy with here? So his cap hit for 2025 is just north of 22 million. So he's on his performance last year, and I know he was hurt. He's not a $22 million player.
Yeah.
And so, whatever team signs it, obviously if a team signs him as a free agent, he's getting a new contract. But if he's traded, there's going to be, the team is going to want to rework a contract more than likely. Like some people were surprised that Washington didn't try and rework a contract for Deebo. And I think basically what they're saying is you have a 1-year show me season now. Come out and get 1,200 yards again, and we'll write the check and make you a $28-29 million a year player. But if you come out and you're overweight or whatever issues there are, and he only gets 600 yards receiving, then he's a 1-year rental, and he's gone at the end of the 2025 season, and they'll reload with somebody else.
Yeah.
That's, I realize that's getting very far ahead of ourselves, but that's the way I see that playing. And I think that's why they didn't offer him. It's like what they did with Carson Wentz. They didn't rework Carson Wentz's contract because they wanted to have the flexibility to cut him after one season when he failed miserably.
I still, How could anyone think he was going to do well? He did terrible for the Colts
and the Eagles.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
I was going with the team that we traded with.
He was on his way to an MVP season before he hurt himself, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I'm going for the Colts who we traded with to get him, and he was playing terrible for them.
Yes. Well, that was the brain trust that was leading the Washington franchise at that time.
Yes.
So, well, I don't know how long we've been going. Maybe a half an hour or so. I don't know. You guys, this is our first episode. I think we did pretty good. I mean, we can keep going if you want. I mean, Lord knows we could probably go on for hours back and forth. But I think this might be a good stopping point. Maybe, I don't know.
I think that's pretty good. We started a little before 10, I think.
Okay.
7-year time. So we've been going 35-ish minutes.
Okay, so that's pretty good. I think that's good for us. That's probably what we'll try and keep it around. Is my thought was 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
We're not going to be one of these podcasts that has breaking news podcasts or emergency podcasts, even though we broke the news that no one will hear about on this podcast because they've already read about it, about Joey Bosa being cut. Hopefully this gives you an idea of what this podcast will be about. If you we would appreciate any and all feedback. Nothing you can say will shock us, and we won't take anything personally. Because, and only speaking for myself, you can't call me any name that I haven't been called before. So,
that sounds like a challenge.
Like I like to say, I've been called worse by much more important people. So, but no, we're doing this for fun. We've all known each other for a long time, and it gives us a chance to get together and talk about these things. And everyone else has a podcast, so why shouldn't we? And again, suggestions or comments, anything, we're ready to take your feedback, and very much appreciate it in advance. Guys, you got anything you want to add on the way out?
We got another goal tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say not football. Yeah.
Oh, so Ovi scored, right? Only what's the game?
They ended up winning in overtime.
The Caps did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a shocker. Okay. All right. Well, so we might end up talking a little bit about the Caps since Ovi's chasing Gretzky for the all-time goal scoring record, and Caps have, I think, the second best record in the league right now. And so there might be a little bit of talk about that because the three of us are also Caps fans, but this is not a Caps podcast. If this does well enough, maybe we'll add a Caps podcast next year. I never get ahead of myself. But anyway, we appreciate you watching, listening. We tell you so we're going to post this on YouTube. You'll know that because this is where you found it. You can subscribe. I think that's what we're supposed to tell people to do. Subscribe, click that like button. We don't expect to make any money off of this, so don't worry about that. We're doing it for the pure joy of being a fan. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess this will wrap up episode 1 of the Couch Posse Podcast. And we appreciate you watching and listening. And we'll probably do 1 a week. Is that what we decided for now?
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Sounds good. Yep.
We can come up with anything to talk about once a week.
Yeah.
So we don't know the schedule yet. So I don't know when to tell you to look for the next one. But you'll find it because you found this one.
We don't know when this one will release. So
hopefully I will have this one posted tonight. That's what I want to do. I want to try and get it posted tonight, if I can, and go from there. Since we don't have to worry about editing because we're too lazy to do that, and I don't have money to pay somebody to do it for me. We're going to run with just it's a one shot, one take. That's why you saw the flag fall down, and we just do repairs on the fly. Because that's all we got. So thank you, and we'll see you on episode 2 of the Couch Posse Podcast.